376 AD, 4270 AM, the Visigoths learned about the fall of the Ostrogoths and swelling of the Hun ranks with Gothic soldiers. The entire nation fled and 1,000,000 panicking Visigoths lined the banks of the Danube River, which marked the Roman frontier. Other historians claim Fritigern led 80,000 Goths and Alans to the Danube and Emperor Valens allowed them to cross, but once conditions were met, these were quickly followed by another 80,000 people, the Gruthungi, who had been forbidden to enter beforehand. The Visigoths entering Roman territory were ordered to turn in their weapons, and for the most part large weapons were turned in. They even provided the children of their Gothic leaders as security to Roman officials, but many Visigoths played to the corruption of the Roman border officials and bribed them to keep their weapons. Because of the destitute conditions of the Goths, the Romans found a perfect market for old foodstuffs that were sold at exorbitant prices. Many Goths were sickened from the tainted food, and others were enraged at the criminal prices the Romans subjected them to. The census of Goths cannot be known. So many passed into Roman territory that the Romans lost count and quit trying. Riots broke out against the Roman officials, and soon so many hordes were crossing the Danube that all semblance of order was gone. From this date onward, the Western Goths, Visigoths, would be a significant force in Europe, even settling into a nation. This year saw a significant population shift in the demographics of the Roman Empire. These people were descendants of Israelites, but the Roman legions were already thoroughly German, Teutonic, Gallic, Celtic, all ancestrally kin to the Goths. The prophecy that Israel would become God's battle axe was being fulfilled. 1. Invaders of Rome. 2. The end of empire. 378 AD, 4272 AM. Through mismanagement and avarice, the Roman officials trying to bleed the desperate Goths escaping the Huns over the Danube, the borders were opened wide with riots, skirmishes and chaos as the Gothic masses filtered into the Roman world. The entire region was looted and the Goths took cattle and water sources, and many even retaliated against the Romans. Emperor Valens with a Roman army went to quell the revolt, and at Adrianople, the Visigothic commander Fritigern learned that the Gothic cavalry was superior to the Roman army. The Goths wore heavy armour and Goths used stirrups, and this greatly aided the power behind their lances, allowing them to mow through the Roman lines. These Goths were the forerunners of the European knight. Other nations rode bareback or with light padded saddles. At Adrianople, the Gothic cavalry forced the Roman army into a press so tight they could not wield their weapons. The Romans were cut down, 40,000 men dying. The news of this defeat sending shockwaves throughout the empire. Other historians claim it was 20,000 killed out of 30,000. Marcellinus wrote that 2/3 of the Roman soldiers were killed. In this year the Pope in Rome assumed the title Pontifex Maximus, which was formerly reserved only for Roman emperors. About this year, according to Jerome, quote, "From India to Britain, all nations resound with the death and resurrection of Christ," unquote. An interesting year in calendrics. This was 1728 years before Armageddon and 5616 years of the Anunnaki chronology. It was 4416 years of the orbital chronology and 690 years, 138 times 5. Also in 378 AD, Valens, Roman emperor, enters into a peace treaty with Persia and marched 600 miles back to Antioch in Syria. As his soldiers departed Antioch, they happened upon an unnerving sight. A man was lying in the road, wide-eyed, alive, but covered in deep welts, as if he had been whipped from head to toe. Though he did not speak, his eyes were alive with vitality and haunted the men. Emperor Valens was summoned, and it was hardly believable that such a man was alive, but the brightness of his eyes showed life. Then the mysterious figure disappeared, and experts on the interpretations of omens declared that this man symbolized Rome, the empire continually beaten like a dying man, according to Zosimus. The Goths were blood descendants of the Cimmerians, Samarians, that were deported from Israel in 745 BC and transplanted into the region of Asia between the Black and Caspian Seas. These people were descendants of Jacob, who had died 16 years earlier, in 1639 BC. This year of the Gothic entry into Roman civilization was also 1380 years, 138 times 10, after the throne of David was founded in 1003 BC, and it was 108 years after the Gothic kingdom split into the Ostrogoths of the east and Visigoths of the west in 270 AD. 1. Invaders of Rome. 3. The night Attila died. 4. The end of empire. 5. Ammianus Marcellinus, Book 31. 6. The Gospel Truth. 7. St. Paul in Britain. 8. The end of empire.